Hello, I'm sorry. I wrote out my response because I want to make sure I hit on everything. And me, I have an attention deficit thing and I go off too far. So I want to get the exact story. So I'm just going to read it. I just spent the last 2 hours writing this. Okay, the question was I would like to hear more about his case. First, I am very new to TikTok, and I'm just using the platform to attempt to break the story of my husband being wrongfully convicted and excessively sentenced in the state of Florida. Coming across your page makes everything I have fought for so long legitimate. You are saying exactly what I've been saying for so long, but no one believes me because they see me and they see that I'm black and assume my husband, who they know nothing about but his skin color, has to be guilty simply because he's black. Only response I get is, yeah, right, he's rightfully convicted, and don't do the crime if you can't do the time, and the rest of the garbage responses that spew out of people's mouth when they hear a black man being wrongfully convicted. My husband was initially brought up on 6 charges. One charge had to be dropped because of double jeopardy. Each charge, the judge sentenced my husband to 40 years, except one, which was 30 years. The only saving grace was that the charges are concurrent. My husband has been wrongfully incarcerated all over the backwoods of Florida for the last 21 years. My husband was just 19 years old. I was 20, and we had a 2-month-old daughter at the time of my husband's wrongful arrest in 2001. By the time my husband lost his rigged up trial, he was 20 years old, and our daughter was 9 months old. Ever since 2002 to present day, we stayed together through extremely expensive phone calls and expensive travel all over the state of Florida to visit him in prison. Currently, he is about 7 hours away from his home in the Panhandle, his home in Orlando. He's in the Panhandle. Now, what landed my husband in prison is he accepted a ride from his cousin as he was walking home from a 7-Eleven, where his cousin picked him up in the street, was so super close to a stop sign that when my husband got in the car, his cousin, the driver, had accidentally ran the stop sign. There were also 2 passengers in the car with his cousin when he was picked up. Upon the driver rolling the stop sign, the police patrolling the area coming from oncoming traffic made a U-turn in the street to attempt to pull the vehicle over. Instead, his cousin pulling over, he sped off, leading the cops in a 5-minute chase around the neighborhood until his cousin stopped the vehicle in a dead-end cul-de-sac and jumped out the car and ran. My husband said he didn't know what the heck was going on. He stepped out the car with his hands up and started to walk towards a lady officer. He said he thought that he could explain to her what had just happened, but she wasn't listening and held him at G-point as he laid on the ground. The 2 passengers his cousin had in the car prior to picking up my husband walking were also told to get out the vehicle. They said they had been robbed. My husband is, of course, black. His cousin, most would assume he's black. In truth, he is so pale that you can't tell his nationality. In fact, today he is booked in Florida DOC for something else as a white male. And the 2 passengers are white as well. So visually, it looks like my husband is the only black man at the scene. The cops immediately believed the 2 passengers and gave them police reports to fill out. In the report, they said that they were robbed of $80. The police officer that was with my husband searched my husband and said he only had $60 on him. The other officer that was with the 2 passengers, once he was informed that my husband only had $60 on him, he gave the police reports back to the guys and told them to cross out 80 and put in 60 so the money can line up. Then, without any question, he lost He let the two guys go and took my husband off to jail. My husband never to be a free man again. As for the assumed to be black cousin that you would never visually mistake for being black, they claim he ran and got away. It was never brought up on charges. In this bogus case, they said he evaded police. He evaded a police foot chase, helicopters looking from above, and a blocked off perimeter, and police dogs chasing him. And he was never caught. Don't believe that whatsoever. So what actually was happening, my husband's cousin was actually a substance dealer. I don't know if I can say that on TikTok. And the two passengers were riding with him to go to the hood that sat across from a very popular club that they were patronizing at the time. They wanted to get high in time for the dance. That was starting at midnight. The cousin was taking the two across the street to the hood so they could go get right. On their way to the hood, the driver spotted his cousin and proceeded to ask his cousin if he wanted a ride home from walking from the 7-Eleven. That's my husband. Upon picking him up, the driver ran the stop sign, and the story picks up from there. After this ordeal, the two passengers returned back to the club without being able to get high, but in enough time to catch the dance. When the two passengers were subpoenaed to give statements, they both moved to two different parts of Vermont, from Florida to Vermont, far from Florida. 3 subpoenas were sent out each for them to testify against my husband. Each subpoena was rejected and sent back to sender. The trial came in my husband and no one showed, the trial came in for my husband, and no one showed up to testify against him. They were supposed to drop the case, but instead my husband's own public defender asked that the court continue the case, and he also asked for money for travel and lodging to go subpoena the two passengers in person in Vermont. Upon subpoenaing them, which was really forcing them to come to court to the second trial date, their testimonies conflict so much with one another. One of the passengers appeared to be high on the stand. They were caught in lie after lie. Then they had 3 officers testifying, and all 3 officers' testimony conflicted with one another. The arresting officer in my husband's case is also accused in another case of over-outing a black suspect on the ground 50 times. It was said to be over-outing, and when asked why the over-outing, the officers in that case statements all conflicted one another. The entire case stands on the alleged robbery, but the judge said he can't be charged with robbery because the money doesn't match. They dropped the charge, but then the state went on to say, well, he tried to rob them. The judge said, okay, you could pick it up as attempted robbery. They have no evidence. They have no DNA. They have no fingerprints, and not even the recovery of a weapon, though they charged him with the weapon. They charged him with the hearsay weapon. The judge said he believed if my husband wasn't stopped, the 2 passengers would be dead. So he wants my husband to feel the wrath of what he has done for the rest of his life. He said, I want to give him life, but just so he has a second chance at life, I will only give him 40 years. We are 21 years in on my husband's wrongful conviction. Due to this injustice, my husband has missed everything from our daughter's first steps, first words, kindergarten graduation, high school graduation. He just missed her college graduation. He missed the birth of our granddaughter. He missed our granddaughter's first birthday. And he will not be free until our 1-year-old granddaughter is almost 17 years old. I have a slogan. I am Cadillac Dixon. I'm the legally blind artist that is rapping and painting for justice, and I am hoping to see justice before it all fades to black, because one day it will fade to black. I am losing my eyesight. I'm going blind, and I am trying to see my husband come home and be free before I lose my sight forever. Thank you so much for listening to my story. 20 years, I've been telling this story since I was 20, and I'm 42 now. And thank you for not being deaf ears. Thank you for hearing us. Thank you for seeing us. Thank you so much.